Good morning. It is another Tuesday morning here, and you know what Tuesday mornings mean? That is correct. Another edition of the Kitchings Table. Good morning. I'm your host, Earl Kitchings. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Miss Ronleen Kennedy. Good morning, Ronleen.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing fabulous, looking good, feeling good, and looking for a great show today. And we're going to change things up a little bit. So today, we're going to let Ronleen fly the plane. We're going to let Ronleen fly the plane.
All right.
And she's already uh, ready to make that happen. She's already got a special guest for us today. So, Ronleen, tell us what we're talking about today and introduce our guest today.
All right. So today's topic, we are going to talk about revitalizing our communities and what we can do. And before we do all of that, I just want to say thank you for joining us here at 106.9 LP Awesome Radio, GPAT 20 TV 23, Roku, Facebook Live, and YouTube for Awesome Radio and GPAC TV 23. And we want to take the time to dedicate this show to the mothers because Mother's Day is coming up, and the teachers, as well as the nurses. And before we really get into our show, the teachers, when I think about the teachers, I think about you, Earl, and your role in with teaching. You've taught at universities, you've taught at the middle schools, high schools, college level. I mean, you've done it. And I want to dedicate this show also to your mother, your father, and your wife.
Well,
'Cause
thank you. I
all-
appreciate it.
And I would like to say a special thank you to my sister, Gigi, because we could have lost her during the pandemic as a nurse. So I just want to take the time to thank all the healthcare workers. Now, today, our guest, we're honoring her today for being the beautiful mother that she is. She's a beautiful mother of adult children now. Um, Grandchildren are coming. Well, one is already here and is thriving. And now another one, she'll be welcoming another one into the world. It's going to be a girl. Can't wait to see her and meet her. And she is an entrepreneur, a CEO of her company, and she is a business coach. And I just want to say that, um, just give my disclaimer with her as, on all levels that I am a recipient of her wisdom, and I would not be the insurance agent that I am today. If it was not for her. She let me know, look, I'm making money in this industry. You can too. And I'm so glad that I got on board and embraced financial services and what it's been able to do for people. And this is why we're here. We want to find solutions for the underserved people, get them educated, and have them being able to run their households and their businesses like well-oiled machines. So at this time, I just want to introduce Sorella to you. So Sorella, give us a little bit about your testimony today.
First of all, I want to say thank you guys for allowing me to be a guest today. It's definitely a situation where you're doing something right when the outside can see all of your effort, um, especially with this particular topic. I absolutely love my children, my grown children, but they never seem to really grow up. They just get taller. But coming from the humble beginnings, it is a pleasure to be in this space with financial services and kind of targeting wealth building within the community. Because some people think that you can't rise up out of the projects unless it's sports or something like that as a golden ticket. But families and the community need to know that all it takes is, a little discipline. Um, and like you said, just getting the wisdom from other people in the community and thought leaders in the industries to make it easier for you to, stay on the path of generational wealth, because that is the ultimate goal for me and my family. So I'm doing all of this with that goal in mind, and being a mother and the love that you have for your children to want more and better than what you had has always been my driving force.
Yes, and you are so on point with that. And let me tell you all about the day that I walked into Sorella's home. There's a wall that she has, and that wall is thought provoking. If you're not on that wall, that means you're not doing something right. So she challenged herself, she challenged her children to put something on that wall. And what I mean by that, she gave them three options: military, a job, or education.
Mm-hmm.
And those children have been thriving. Uh, she has as many degrees as they're trying to get. I call it no excuse wall. Thriving after education so that they can be paid the higher dollars. And what I loved about her story, first and foremost, is that she said, being in this little hit town in Missouri, I was born here, raised here, whatever, but this cannot be my life. I have to
Absolutely.
find what's out here and what's for me, and be able to raise my children so they can start thriving. And now she has a thriving grandson. So
Giovanni.
yes. So share with the mothers who, are dealing with their humble beginnings. Share with them your wisdom to help them get to where they need to be.
Okay. And I know the first thing is, it might just seem like you've heard this before, but the first thing is to not give up, to know what it is that you're wanting to do. We all know the world doesn't allow us to always go with our first plan, right? So just having that confidence to know that you will finish. And just like, you guys were kind of saying before the show, sometimes it just has to be at a slower pace. Your uh, accomplishments, it's not based off of someone else's um, social media. You see all this stuff going on. We know a lot of it isn't real, and a lot of it is just designed to allow you to think that things can happen overnight. But my journey didn't. I like I said, I grew up in Charleston, Missouri. Shout out. But I did know at an early age that just looking at what was available within the community. We were a farm community, but there weren't any Black farmers. We had two grocery stores, a Walmart, a Pizza Hut. That's it. So fast food was not my future. I got fired from McDonald's. That was like my first job. I didn't like, people kind of telling me what to do. So that was like my little early um experience with entrepreneurship. Like I knew I had the discipline to work, and I knew I needed to be able to bring in, money to provide for my children, which I was a young teenager mom. So I had to do what I had to do, but I didn't see very much outside of um, my hometown. That's the extra thing for mothers they need to see. They need to be able to see that it's more to it than what they see every day, to stretch their vision of what it is that they want to be able to do. besides not giving up. And if you're dealing with your children, this is the main thing that I had to learn. They're all different. Their personalities are different. Their temperances are different. So you have to curate something specifically for them to succeed. And as well as, to keep your sanity, because, you can't use the same tactics on, all your children, because they're just like, little adults that don't have the opportunity to always understand why they are the way they are. So it's kind of your job to, take different pieces of them to bring out the greatness in them. And along the way, you find out that when you have people in your corner, mentors, good friends that aren't scared to tell you the truth about yourself, you realize that it gets a little bit easier along the way. It gets a little easier, but just don't give up. You might have to switch it up. I visited my brother in Jacksonville for his graduation. And that's when I knew. I was like, wow, this is something. Like, I can see myself here. And after getting multiple scholarships for college in Missouri, we were going to go in the buddy system. But one by one, my buddies started dropping off. And I ended up being the only one left. They were, oh, I'm going to work. Oh, I'm going to, go later. I was like, nope, if I don't get out now, I'm going to be stuck, So once I decided that, being there was not an option after graduation, I asked my brother, hey, can I come stay with you in Jacksonville? Him and his girlfriend, which is at the time, Lisa. She is a lifelong friend. She was one of the people who saw what I saw myself as, but she was my cheerleader along the way, and still is to this day. It's like some of those things you actually need. You can't think that you're going to be the best that you can be by yourself. So once I got here, I just kind of tried to figure it out. I tried nursing, which is my brother was in the medical field because it paid. Got to clinicals and I was like, nah, it's not for me. But then I ended up changing my degree to psychology and a minor in business. And that's when it all kind of came together. I, at that time, was shy, extremely, extremely, extremely shy. Now look at me. I'm all on TV. Can't get me to shut up. but but I was extremely shy. But I knew that was one of the things that I needed to work on. And the psychology degree wasn't for business purposes. It was actually to be able to understand myself and how I can be able to help me throughout, because that was one of my main pain points. How am I going to execute this grand plan with the fear of speaking to people? So little by little, I just kind of chunked down my list of the things that I wanted to improve. And then just over the course of time, just started refining it and adding additional things to advance. And before you knew it, I'm in this place where it's still challenging, but I create new goals after I complete the old ones. And even with mothers, the main thing with motherhood, in my opinion, is the feeling of being overwhelmed with raising your children, working a job, if you're an entrepreneur, running your business, self-care, and it's hard sometimes to separate your goals and aspirations with just everyday life, but you just gotta figure out what works for you, and then and what doesn't. You got to go back to the drawing board, and try to figure it out, or figure other ways to kind of get those goals accomplished. But just don't stress yourself out, because life already does that for you.
Oh, so true. Do you have anything to add to that, Earl?
No, I don't. I don't have anything to add. I was just going to ask Sorella, when did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, and what caused that mindset to happen?
A funny story. Third grade, um, we used to. One of my teachers, she was real active with hands-on learning, and we had career day. Third grade, I knew I wanted to be a secretary when I grew up. I mean, because I was organized. I used to take my grandma's recipe boxes with the little index cards, and I go to the candy store and I would file all my receipts and all that stuff. And I just knew that I was good at helping other people uh, stay organized or stay disciplined. I had a cousin. I got an allowance. My cousins got allowances, but I was the only person at the end of the month that still had some of their $20, So money management at an early age. I was the go-to person, when it came to the most practical things. And like I said, when I started working at McDonald's, I just didn't like the mindset of the employers just yelling and, do this, do that. And it's just like, this will work a lot smoother if you actually treated people like something, and that was in my mind, like, okay, if I could do this differently, I would do XYZ. And that's actually kind of what started me being able to kind of do things on my own. And then when I came to Jacksonville, like I said, I still was the go-to person. My second job, well, my first real job, corporate job, I worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield. And it was a billing clerk. And that was my first thing of insurance. And I started off as a temporary employee, but I also ended up being the go-to person, because we worked all the lot boxes and all that kind of stuff, researching payments. And I just fell right into that piece. It was something about me solving people's problems that it just did something for me. So after that, I started doing taxes and, all the side hustles that you hear about, until it was a point where my friend Lisa, she was like, well, have you ever thought about starting a business, doing taxes and credit? And it just kind of morphed, staying in the same lane of financial services, because that's what I was good at. But my first real business was when I was an adjuster for State Farm for about 10 years. They went through a reorg. Everybody moved to Birmingham, Alabama, that wanted to keep their job. I wasn't finna move my kids to Birmingham, Alabama. That's not what I wanted for them. So I stepped out on everybody else, kind of moved to other insurance companies, but I stepped out on faith. And that's when I got my sales license for insurance and got a little office off of Bay Meadows, and that's kind of where it began. I again struggled a little bit because that fear of speaking, but I excelled at one-on-one speaking though. So it wasn't a situation where I was just scared of people. It was just the group of people. But one-on-one, I get them every time. They're definitely gonna sign up if they're gonna be if they meet all the other qualifications. So that's when I knew that I was good at it. And um, I was always taught that when it comes to your gifts and your talents, those are the ones that you actually need to pursue in your business because it's easier for you. And when it comes to scripture, it always says that they will make room for you to grow as big as you need to grow. So um, that's kind of how I led into, entrepreneurship and knowing that that's something that I actually was good at and wanted to pursue.
Very good. So, Earl, you and I were having a conversation last night and we were talking about graduation. And you said, look, I gotta go. I have a real job. I have a real job. And I just thought, we get on our journeys some type way. And I am just, glad and grateful that we are, where we are in this day and time because it is so needed. You talked about your job skills and your talents and things like that. And we need every last one of them, to
Mhm.
resolve this, affordable housing crisis that we're experiencing today. So, Earl and I had been having this conversation off and on about the partnership that TD Jakes has entered in with Wells Fargo. And of course, as people are saying, Wells Fargo, with all of the trouble that they have caused, especially when you talked about Black farmers, the farming industry out there in Missouri, that's one of the things. It's like, okay, when you can't get funding to carry your business forward, to move your business forward, and you go to your local bank and you are denied for these loans, then and you don't have any collateral, you don't have any other recourse because everything else is tied up. It's like, okay, now you're forced to have to sell off land. You're forced to have to do something that you shouldn't have had to do because the resources are sitting right there in your community. Your money is sitting right there in that community. Funding, making it easy for the lending to take place, but you can't get money off your own. You can't get a loan off your own money. So, with us being in this financial crisis that we find ourselves in, Sorella, this was so fitting for us today to be able to have that discussion with you. So with TD Jakes and Wells Fargo, and then we have Reverend Vaughn McLaughlin here with the Potter's House, the things that he's been able to do with the schools and the malls, being able to convert that into like incubators, for people to have their businesses, be able to have a community for growth for the children, to grow the affordable housing program that's there with Wealth Watchers, and then Mark Griffin with Wayman Temple AME Church. He's doing the same thing. He rescued Eureka Gardens, putting a playground out there and really just calling attention to the conditions. So we want to just get into the solution thing. Reverend Mark Griffin said it best. He wished more ministries will get involved to do the things that needs to be done. Take a part of their community that their church is sitting. You know, and so we wanted to have that conversation. Do you want to weigh in on that, either one of you?
Well, I think in a day and time when we are facing so many different obstacles for the growth of not only our communities, the growth of our families, the growth of our businesses, the growth of our spiritual institutions. We are faced with so many different challenges that it takes a collaborative effort, and it takes someone with vision to work collaboratively in wanting to move the needle forward on how to embody our communities to become stronger in a lot of different ways. And when I first heard about uh, Bishop Jakes partnering with Wells Fargo, of course a red flag went up because Wells Fargo has had some improprieties as it relates to people of color and Black people with their lending practices, and how they've not been very forthcoming in doing lending to people of color and Black people. However, when we're talking about multi-million dollar projects like this, it's a little bit different. And when you've got your own money to bring to the table, people with money see you, view you, listen to you differently. And I think that's one of the things that Bishop Jakes has been able to do. And please be mindful that this project that he's doing with Wells Fargo is not a church or a spiritual project. He has two other entities that he's funneling this project through, the TD Jakes Group, TD Jakes Realty, and they're going to build affordable housing, which is definitely needed. So you have that piece. You spoke of Bishop Vaughn McLaughlin here in Jacksonville and the Potter's House here, and what he's done to create business, education, and opportunities with what he's doing. And then, of course, Pastor Griffin is working on in his own way. So we just have to be mindful that there are opportunities and ways. But it seems that one of the biggest voids we face as Black people is collaboration. We don't always collaborate as much or as often or drill down as much as we need to in order to make that collaborative effort work. Because if each one of us had $10 million and we went to a bank to borrow $30 million, well, collaboratively we can get that done, but individually it may be a little bit more difficult. And we have to start working in unison and not pushing back against one another, because as they say, they're strength and unity. But when you can split us up and you're out there on the island by yourself, they can pick you off one by one. So I'm hoping that the template that Bishop Jakes is using is going to be used in some other places, especially where you have mega churches. I know that Bishop McLaughlin here in Jacksonville, his template is a template that needs to be used by some mega churches and some ministers to do what he's doing from the standpoint of having a shopping mall, having a business center, having a school, uh, all inclusive in his community to build and offer jobs and opportunities. So we just need to look at how we can make that happen. And even amongst entrepreneurs, we need to be a little bit more connective when it comes to these things, because I think a lot of times we have these idealistic ways of wanting to do things, and it is so individualized that we miss out on opportunities to connect collectively and make that strength in numbers work for all of us. So if Sorella is strong in something, Ronline is strong in something, I'm strong in something, and we can come together and talk about how we can strengthen each other or help each other build our businesses. We just layer a few more bricks on top of what we're doing, and we get stronger. But we let this divisiveness come between us, and it really creates problems. We can get there, but we have to be a little bit more in tune to working collaboratively.
That is right. That is right.
Mhm.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and have our station identification, Earl.
Thank you. This is the Kitchings Table here on Awesome Radio, WBISLP 106.9 FM. You can catch us every Tuesday morning right here on Awesome Radio. You can also catch us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Roku TV, and GPAC 23. This is the Kitchings Table, and all we're asking you to do is tune in and watch and listen, and perhaps you might learn something. Today, our guest is Sorella Perry, an outstanding entrepreneur, business coach, her own CEO, someone who has pulled herself up from the ground level to be a successful businesswoman. And it's great to see that entrepreneur bug bit her at a young age. And at the time when she was doing it in third grade, she didn't know it was an entrepreneur bug that was biting her and causing her to want to have this spirit. But that spirit took a hold of her, and now it has led her to being an entrepreneur. And now that she is that, and encouraging her children not only to uh, seek out opportunities, but also seek out education as a key to opportunities. We thank you, Sorella, for all you're doing, and continue good luck with your efforts in your business. And we're so happy to have you here this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorella, would you let us know, for the people who are just trying to figure things out? They're trying to juggle so many things. They're trying to juggle the household, the rent, the mortgage, whatever that is where housing is concerned. That takes the largest chunk out of your check. And why entrepreneurship? Let them know the reason why entrepreneurship needs to be added on top of you having your job. I heard it said so many times, you know, your job is full time, but work on your part time. Because when your part time becomes like the full time money that you're making, you're actually gonna break the glass ceiling.
Absolutely. I think just kind of looking at everything in perspective, I had a thing where I'm a multitasker. Everybody's not a multitasker. But one thing I kind of did learn was just kind of managing all of my projects, was just starting off with three things. Like now, I'm only allowed three things on my plate at a time so that I can put more focus on the things that are more urgent, and then just kind of go down the list. Like I said before, running a household is stressful. So sometimes people can't fathom. So you want me to raise my kids, you want me to work on a job and start a business too. But it doesn't have to be complicated. I'll take my oldest daughter, for example. When she was pregnant with Giovanni, she started a little side hustle. My youngest daughter is vegan, so we started just doing soaps and candles and simple stuff that didn't require a lot of time. She can block off a little bit, create it. She started going on social media, and orders just started coming in. It wasn't anything extra, that she had to do on a daily basis besides just take pictures and promote it onto, Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that. I think sometimes people get overwhelmed with the thought of it being a business, but it can be a side hustle. There are very, very lucrative side hustles that you can do just to add additional income to your household. But when it comes to doing, trying to make sure that you have enough money at the end of the month, that's a discipline slash budgeting thing that you can kind of go through. There's nothing wrong with changing up the way you do things. I A few years ago, we were tasked to read the book 12-Week Year, basically compressing the whole year within 12 weeks. Now, some people are like, I do not have enough time for that. But when you prioritize things that are going to get you um, the most projection forward, you'll start seeing everything else kind of just falls into place. So what I do, some people, they have like their yearly plans. I do quarterly plans. So if I need to course correct, I'm not all the way down in December trying figuring out that I got a problem, So I do that because things change, life changes. We just have the pandemic that just uprooted everything that we knew as normal. So when it comes to you doing it that way, kind of like touching your vision more, it keeps you more engaged. B, it makes you accountable for, the plans that you have in place. And it makes it to where you're not giving up because your projections are cut up into bite-sized pieces that you actually can maintain and swallow. Because that's the key. Don't get yourself overwhelmed with the process that you quit. So, just like I said, go with what's your passion. If you go with what's your passion, it doesn't seem like it's work. Business is just a technical term, but it's an exchange of a product or service for money that's going to help you. So just, kind of dumb it down if you have to, just so that you can process it so that it's not overwhelming for you to where you don't even start. And that's kind of, my take on it. If it's small enough, you don't even realize that you're doing it until you look up and you've done all of this, and then you've moved forward, and it builds confidence along the way.
Yeah. Earl, you had a t-shirt business. Tell us how that went for you of breaking your glass ceiling.
Well, I knew I wanted to be my own business person while I was in college. And my whole goal was to find a way to make that happen at some point in time after college. It doesn't happen right away. And primarily because of two things, inexperience and insufficient amount of funds. But when I started my first business in 1980, it was called Pearl Designs. And it was started out as basically just a t-shirt and souvenir business that grew into providing not just t-shirts, but we grew it into a souvenir business for apparel items and other souvenir items that could be purchased at Black college football games. And a lot of my time was spent providing and producing that type of merchandise during football season. And you got to understand that from week to week, game to game, you're trying to get this merchandise ready and have it ready to, take it to these games. So that was the very first opportunity I had in that, and I did that for about 10 years. And that was my first taste of it. And I felt that once that entrepreneur bug bit me, that I never wanted to really, really work for anybody else. I could, and I have taken on jobs where I worked for someone else. But at the same time, even when I was doing that, I was still looking at doing things on my own for myself. So the idea of entrepreneurship for Black people in specific is something that we need to understand what happens with it when we utilize it in a very positive way. And as Sorella has already said, there are opportunities out there. You have to, and I like what she said, that you do a business based on your passion. If you don't have a passion for it, it's not going to last long because it's going to seem like a lot of work to you. You got to put a lot more effort into it. But when it's something that you really love to do, you have a passion for it, it's work and it's hard work and it's long hours, but you don't think about it that way because you're enjoying what you're getting from it. And I tell you, that t-shirt business gave me an opportunity to travel from Atlanta, Georgia, as far north as Virginia and as far west as Los Angeles and San Francisco doing souvenir items for different events. And it just told me that what I'm doing is something that people want. And the one thing that I always prided myself on doing was, and I'm sure Sorella and Ronline, you both will echo this. The one thing that we have to do as Black business owners, we have to always take into account this one thing. Customer service is the most important thing that we can do as business owners. Customer service drives us, and it will drive us to either breaking the ceiling or dropping into the cellar. And when we don't provide good, excellent customer service, it has a dramatic effect on our business. And that's when we start losing on the opportunity. So, my thing was always to provide excellent customer service. If I sold something to someone, I stood behind it. If you weren't happy with it, I either refunded it or I exchanged it, but I never made it an issue that you would have a reason to not want to do business with me again, because you never know. As they say, somebody knows somebody else and they know 10 more people, and that's how you flourish. But bad news travels fast. And if you have poor product and service and you have poor customer service, that's going to be a death warrant for your business.
Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
brought me to the memory of when we all, Sorella, you and Jerry, were sitting in
Hmm.
the office. Well, actually, in the corner bakery,
Yep.
planning what we our next steps for customer service. Because Earl, you are spot on. If you don't have the people ringing those phones and not being able to resolve their issues, you do not have a business. Your business will go in the toilet very quickly, no matter how good your product is.
Well, Ronline, it's amazing that a couple of simple words can make the difference in your business surviving and thriving or not. Uh, Two words: thank you.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Thank you, and may I help you, and be positive about it, and not with an attitude. Because if you do those two things, they go a long way. And one business that I would seek anyone to replicate from a customer service standpoint is Chick-fil-A, because whenever you go to Chick-fil-A, I've been to a few of them in different places, and they have this one thing. Whatever you ask them for, if it's a packet of salt, if it's an extra order or whatever, their response to you is always my pleasure.
Pleasure. Yeah.
And that is a standard that when you hear that, you just know that they're going out of their way to do whatever they got to do to make you happy so that you'll come back. But when you go to some places and you ask for something, you get attitude. It's like, you think that I'm here for you. You're not you're not supposed to treat me with any type of decency and respect, and I'm gonna come back anyway. No, I'm not gonna ever come back to this business. And a lot of times when we deal with those kind of businesses, if we can ever get to the owners and let them know, I will come back to your business, but your people are so rude or so unprofessional or uncourteous that I will never come back here again. And as they like to say, and I'm going to tell my friends not to come here. And once that kiss of death goes out like that, it becomes a very bad thing. So uh, thank you, and may I help you, or my pleasure. Customer service words that go a long way.
Yes. Sorella, I want you to weigh in on the financial services as it relates to how you can combat affordable housing crisis. Let me, because I know I hear it all the time when I'm sitting down talking with people about services that we offer. They're like, I can't get rent paid.
Hmm.
Kind of thing. And when we have those conversations about, okay, what are your talents? What are you able to do, outside of just going to work, so that you can build that nest egg that everybody keeps talking to you about. Weigh in on it.
Well, I think first things first, with that type of situation, you want to look at mindset, because without that, you can give people advice all day long, but if they don't feel like it's attainable, or sometimes you do need the cheerleaders in the corner, because what people hear, and when I first started in insurance, people looked at insurance as not as a safety mechanism, but as a bill, another bill that they had to pay. That they're looking at the right now, and people's reality that struggle, or that they don't have an abundance. They're just kind of living at um, just enough. It's kind of hard to tell them that. It's almost like selling the pie in the sky to them. You definitely have to talk the language, and kind of shift the mindset, with one thing at a time. Now, a lot of people don't know, there's things built in insurance policies that can allow you to save a little bit, to build, wealth, or even, you know, being a homeowner. I know that was my goal, to be a homeowner before I was 30. And that was extremely important to me. I would hear, the stories of, the cafeteria workers who, put a little bit to the side, and was able to, have a nice egg, by the time they retired. And that concept was a game changer for me, because I said, okay, I got um, 3 children, and then I think at that time I probably was only making 30,000 a year, something like that. And I was like, okay, so how am I going to be a homeowner? Guess what I did? I researched, you know, I got my first home, I got down payment assistance of about $22,000. Um, that actually helped me get into my home. Um, I was able to, start saving, putting towards, 401ks and stuff like that, a little bit at a time, And I think, you know, people thinking of the right now makes it harder for them to see what they can actually do for the future. But all of it is, like I said, mindset and discipline. But you have to help them see it, like that it is attainable. You can't just say, oh, well, it can be done. No, show me how. And that's where kind of people like us as coaches and um, professionals in that area, we can map it out, help map them out for them, and then hold them accountable as an accountability partner to make sure that they're actually doing some of these steps to get to that goal. But as I've spoke before, just don't make it overwhelming, one thing at a time. So if you're having an issue with um, paying the rent, because rent and living cost, it's outrageous. It's inflated. It's, everything. But I truly believe it'll go down just like how it did right before I purchased my home. The prices were outrageous then too, but it leveled out. But what it showed me was that you have to be prepared. This is the kind of thing that, oh, had I listened to such and such Ron Lean back in 10 years ago, saying that, target for just a little bit to the side for 1 month's rent, 3 months rent, 6 months, you know a little bit goes a long way when it comes to actually being able to stick to a plan, um, to getting out of poverty and in going into wealth generation.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. Well, Sorella, it was a pleasure to have you here with us today. And we do look forward to another opportunity to be able to speak with you. Earl, take us away.
Okay, well, Sorella, again, thank you so very much for joining us here today on the Kitchings Table. Your insight and information has been very helpful. Well, that's going to do it for us today here on the Kitchings Table. Don't forget, every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on Awesome Radio, WBISLP 106.9 FM. You can join us here on the Kitchings Table. For my co-host, Ron Lee Kennedy, and for Sorella Perry, we want to say thank you again for joining us. And as always, do something good for somebody else today. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.